Before we get into the video, let me start off by saying that while this video won't go into massive spoilers for the movie, you should totally watch Transformers 1 first. Literally watch it, I'm not even joking. I've only seen like the first two Bay films when I was a kid, and I never got into Transformers before or afterwards. This movie got me drawing them and thinking about them constantly. Like, I think artists who draw Transformers art or mecha art are already insane because of how complex it can be. I mean that lovingly, by the way, and now I'm falling into that rabbit hole and want to learn more about Transformers lore. Secondly, this video is going to be structured more like a rant, commentary rant. Normally when I talk about something on my channel, with the videos so far that I got anyway on here, I go into bigger detail about production, behind the scenes, and setting up a timeline. Transformers is a bit harder to do because it's been around for such a long time, and mostly this is me going on a commentary style rant rather than a full-blown analysis. It's a video that I just got the sudden urge to make. I'm sure there are other videos talking about this as well that bring up other good points too, because this movie got a lot of people talking, mainly about the one issue in particular with this movie that isn't even in the movie. I am going on fewer sources than I would normally use and mainly discussions online, and partly based on my own insight based on what I've noticed within movies releasing over the last few years, which could lead to speculations and assumptions that may or may not be correct. This problem that I'm discussing isn't also considered new. It's technically been ongoing since streaming really took off after the pandemic in 2020. There's also a lot more problems regarding the film and TV industry that I could spend a bit talking about and complaining about, but for the most part, Transformers 1 basically covers this problem I'd like to discuss right now. So in general, keep this in mind that what I'm saying could be inaccurate at certain points, though I think there's some merit to it. I welcome additional thoughts and insights in the comments below. With all that said, let's get into the video. I heard about this movie roughly in April after the first trailer release, showed it to my brother afterwards, and that was it. Not just us talking about the movie and how it potentially looked neat, how from my viewpoint I thought the animation looked cool, albeit the faces threw me off because I think to me it looked a smidge uncanny at the time. And with my brother, how he expressed that scene in Origin to Optimus Prime and Megatron's past would be cool, even if the trailer looked boring, because, yeah, it did. It was selling the movie as an action comedy, and the jokes weren't really landing. And admittedly, the Chris Hemsworth voice threw me off, though the casting looked generally okay from what we were hearing besides that. Bear in mind, while I wasn't a fan, my brother used to be a hardcore fan of the series. But anyway, once we were done talking about the trailer, it seemed like Paramount was done too. Another trailer came out in July, which actually showcases the grimmer side of this movie a lot more than the first trailer did. And then there was a final trailer that was released on September 17th, 3 days before the movie came out. And I only saw the first ad twice, when I got it for myself on a YouTube video, and then when I talked about it with my brother. That's it. That's all she wrote type shit. In regards to hearing or seeing anything about this from Paramount. I saw one article where once it was revealed no humans were in the movie, everyone attending a PAX or a con, I think, cheered loudly. And by God, am I glad for that too. So, word of mouth is a key factor for why everyone went and saw this movie. My friend Alec talked about how he was going to watch the movie, and he was sending us his live reactions to the movie. At some point he finished it, and that day he asked the three of us if we wanted to sit down and watch it together on a call. Which we did. And
hey, you're thinking about what you'll say when you hand the Matrix to Sentinel, aren't you?
I can't help it.
D, we're really doing this.
So glad I'm out here with you. This was a great idea. I'm D16.
Orion Pax.
You ever mine Energon before?
No, you?
No. I hear it's dangerous.
Well, I'll tell you what. You watch my back, I'll promise to watch yours.
All right. Thanks. Pax?
Was wrong about that. It was going the other way.
I rate this movie like a 9 out of 10 for real. It's a fantastic start for anyone not into Transformers. And it got my brother back into it when he was out for a long time.
I'm done saving you.
Chris Hemsworth, I'm sorry I even doubted you for a second. You locked the fucking nailing young Peter Cullen. Brian Tyree Henry is awesome as D16, and seeing him transition from that to Megatron is just phenomenal. While I didn't think all of the jokes, mainly surrounding B, landed, I still like Keegan-Michael Key's performance, and Scarlett Johansson was nice as Alita as well. Regarding Chris and Scarlett specifically, I really did like them as Optimus and Alita. I think we're used to turning up our noses when we see an MCU actor in a movie, especially an animated movie. I'm guilty of that as well. I would prefer actors that are more into voice work over celebrity casting, but I think it works for them in this movie. And legitimately, I think it's just the fatigue that Marvel has brought on with how they go about their movies that made me unsure of the initial casting. You also have John Hamm as Sentinel, Lawrence Fishburne as Alpha Trion, Steve Buscemi as Starscream. Which, by the way, I've only seen this iteration of him, and I'm sorry, but he might become my favorite going forward. Sorry to do this to you all.
Hit me! Do it! Come on! Yeah, more!
Also, hot take, he already sounds like Starscream. They didn't need alter his voice. Vanessa Liguri, John Bailey, and Jason Conopisos Alvarez voice Arachnid, Soundwave, and Shockwave respectively. There's also voice works from Evan Michael Lee as Jazz, James Remar as Zeta Prime, Isaac C. Singleton Jr. as Darkwing. Steve Blum is even in this movie twice as a guard and announcer. Hearing his voice was whiplash, like me and my sister recognized him both times. And it's like, you rarely see renowned VAs be in big movies like this. It's really refreshing. Other voices come from Jenny Chung as Chromia and RC, Josh Cooley himself as the control room guys, PA system and Skywarp, Dylan Bryan as the injured racer, and there is an uncredited role for Misty Lee. The cast is pretty solid. Did I need to list all the VAs over talking about the movie in full? Yes, for my sake and yours, because VA work needs to be recognized more. Plus, some of the actors like Steve Blum doubled up, and Ginny, Josh, and Dylan were workers on the film in particular. Plus, the casting list wasn't long, and it's like really easy to go through, so I figured I'd mention it. I also cannot stress enough that the animation is such a wonder to look at. The faces don't bother me much anymore, and seeing the work that went into it, how Josh also purposely chose the Art Deco style to be placed throughout Icon, is just really beautiful. We also showed our mom this movie as well, since she watched G1, and her only grips that the opening act was slow and the mishmash of blurriness and sharpness within some scenes were just hard to look at, which I'm assuming has to do with the given environment and lighting. So I understand those criticisms. I think the opening act is a little bit slow at times too, but I thought it was still evenly paced all around. It's also funny when we were watching it, my mom recognized Steve Buscemi's voice right away, and when he started walking down the steps, she was like, "Oh, he walks like Buscemi too," and I had lost it. Like, what do the animators mean by that? Anyways, yeah, besides watching it on call, we went to the theaters to watch it as well, and it was very much not packed. We went like a week or so after watching the movie initially. There was like one other family there. My theaters also stopped showing it like near or on the third week it was in theaters, so I couldn't participate in TF Weekend. Now you might be asking, what's TF Weekend? Well, that brings me to my next section. Going back to my word of mouth point, the first week this movie came out, many social media websites were talking about this movie. Which, that's how it normally goes, that's nothing new. But everyone, and I mean everyone, was talking about how the trailers did not do this movie justice. Especially the first trailer. It's showcasing how rough the falling out is between Orion and D16, the cinematography, the voice work, the hidden details, all of it. On Twitter, there's this one account, legitimately the GOAT, TF Hype Guy. Originally, the account was focused on talking about Rise of the Beast, which came out in 2023. The account then started talking about Transformers 1 up to its release date, urging everyone to go see it in theaters, and continuously doing so even after its release. The film opened domestically with $9 million, and for the most part stayed in either the millions or hundred thousands within the first week or so, but it was exceptionally lower than what fans would have wanted the movie to get, especially when you compare it to other animated films that garnered a lot of money this year, like Inside Out 2 or Kung Fu Panda 4. On October 6th, a week before international releases of the film would be made, the account created the hashtag TFWeekend to help push for a larger box office and to help promote the movie even more. Throughout the 11th and 13th of October, the film domestically earned roughly $1 million each day, before going back down to the 100,000s. Since its digital release, it stays in that number area or in the 10,000s range. The movie reportedly is one of the highest digital releases right now, at least last I checked. Toys and merchandise have not been accounted for yet, or at the very least are not shown to the public yet. I don't even know if they can, honestly, but I figured they probably would mention, like, how much they've earned from it. Paramount, after a month of releasing the movie, did acknowledge TF Hype Guy's efforts to promote the movie, giving them a special Transformers 1 care package of toys from the movies for free. Should have been given a check too, in my opinion, but it's nice to see the effort was recognized. But it's so fucking me right, because now Paramount is promoting the movie after its release on digital and actually marketing the film, which I've just never seen happen. It's really weird.
Now, why don't you sit down, Poppy? You're still recuperating. Well, you tired, Poppy?
No.
There you go. Anyway, I'm sorry again about the
what?
So long, huh? I'll see you tonight, right? All right.
Kramer, what is this?
What is what?
This puddle on my sofa.
What puddle?
That puddle.
I don't know.
Is it? Could it? Could he have? It is! Poppy peed on my sofa!
Sure.
Well, what is it then?
This movie is a movie to watch in theaters. As I'm writing this video on Alright, video's canceled. As I'm writing this video on November 2nd, it's still in theaters, but the number of theaters it is in is considerably lower. The film so far has crossed $125 million in total, and the budget for this film is estimated to be either $75 million to $147 million. However, the budget was split 3 ways between Paramount, Hasbro, and New Republic Pictures. Assuming it was split evenly, that would at least be $25 million for each, and at most $49 million. With that in mind, to break even, the film would have to make either $150 million or $294 million at most. Some early articles talked about how the film would have to be successful at the box office to push for the full trilogy they want to do. It's worth pointing out that the reviews for this movie are consistently positive. There's general hype and praise being shown among fans and newcomers to the series as well. It may be me coping, but I want to believe that this one time, the movie will get a sequel. Because quite frankly, it deserves it and it's the marketing's fault. September could be considered a weird month for movie releases, but The Wild Robot was a movie that succeeded, that came out a week later, and was also greenlit for a sequel. This makes my coping even worse. But the key difference is that the movie's marketing was consistent over Transformers 1, and people talked about how it was the last in-house movie at DreamWorks, since they were going to start outsourcing their movies. Maybe that's not a large selling point among regular audiences, but for animation nuts and animators, it is. It's inherently cheaper, by the way, to outsource animation. That's likely a key reason as to why they're outsourcing in the first place. Speaking of corporate greed...
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
Let's get into the general theory as to why this movie bombed and why it might be on purpose. Streaming has become a big deal in the last decade and a half. What started out as an easy access to movies or TV shows to have on pretty much one major platform to combat cable has become a monopolistic format to gatekeep certain products among the big name studios in order to keep competition going and to make more money. Disney is arguably one of the biggest monopolies out there within the film industry, and animators in the industry will come to a general consensus that they are abhorrent to work with and will take jabs at them anytime. Alex Hirsch was a prominent example in the early 2010s where censorship hindered jokes and gay representation in Gravity Falls, along with recently The Owl House, made by Dana Terrence. In some other shows, you will see subtle, not so subtle jabs made towards them.
Of course we do! We're just trying to show how real friendships work.
And we can, because we're on Nickelodeon, not some fake we get along all the time network like, well, I can't legally name the other company, but You know which one.
The company as a whole is shit. The lawsuit from the peanut allergy and the initial dismissive attitude because they had a Disney Plus subscription. Movie executives as a whole are not your friends, and the corporate greed reflects greatly within how long movies are released in theaters. They want certain movies to bomb. Reading off this Tumblr champion blog, the post reads as follows. User When Cartoons Rule the World first posted, Disney when they spend exactly $2 promoting their new movie during a busy weekend and it flops, with the surprise Pikachu meme. A reblog from Ghostly Blue Muffins then follows with a screenshot of tags. Reading it as is, says, this is about Haunted Mansion and I have some stuff to say. So when I saw the trailer during the Barbie movie, and I was planning to watch that movie with my brother too, but when I saw the release date, I get super confused. July? In fucking July, you pretend to release this movie. Disney is insane. Why would they do that? Who in the world would release a Halloween movie during July? And why would you release a movie when Barbie is what people still talking about? And I think the TMT movie is releasing this month, I guess. The next reblog goes as follows, explaining why this is the case. At ArtistHeart83. There's actually a reason for this. A very disgusting and greedy capitalist reason, but a reason nonetheless. Basically, they are banking on it not doing well in theaters, but doing well on streaming services in October, over 3 months after the release date. Most of the writers, actors, workers, etc. paycheck depends on how well they do in theaters and the 3 months after its release. Since it'll fall in theaters and won't pick up in streaming until after everyone has gotten the majority of their paychecks, they won't have to pay their workers as much as their work is worth. This was also going on during the SAG strikes as well, so it adds more salt in the wound. And quite frankly, I believe that most, if not all, studios follow this trend. Joker 2 followed due to Electric Boogaloo got a streaming release on October 20th, when it released on October 4th, because it's doing so shit at the box office compared to the first movie. Which I haven't seen it, but I've heard the shit with it, and I hate it so much. There's so much to unpack with that movie. I thought the first film was fine anyways, but that one just kind of set me off.
What in the actual fuck?
There's also the new Beetlejuice sequel, and in an article from IndieWire, it states Tim Burton pushed for that movie to be a theatrical release rather than a streaming exclusive release. And that film was still scheduled for a digital release a month after it was released anyways, though it could still be played in theaters. The Wild Robot, which was a critical success, got a streaming release after its initial release while still being in theaters. Now, because those films are still in theaters, I'm inclined to believe that they still get paid for the theater time. However, because streaming is accessible, heavy quotes around the word accessible, and otherwise being able to access an HD release online would make it easier for people to watch and would deter them from going to the movies, rather watching it at home instead. Transformers as it stands right now is dropping significantly at the box office, so not only is this an issue of not getting a sequel, workers may not get a large or fair paycheck from the theatrical release of the movie. Then payment within streaming services is a whole different ballgame. Actors have faced issues in the past receiving royalties on TV shows that aired on cable or on Netflix, etc. I imagine that other streaming services would have this problem too. Part of that, I think, has to do with some initial contracts that were made at the time, but come on, you can adapt and pay your workers. At Pixar, a percentage of staff was laid off from the animation department before the release of Inside Out 2, meaning that they couldn't get a paycheck from the movie. And that movie is now the highest grossing animated movie of all time, that's stuck a long time in theaters, or basically the appropriate runtime that a movie should be in theaters. You got me fucked up, dude. Starting off with New Republic Pictures, they do act as a financer to feature films, especially with Paramount. I saw this controversy from them regarding their alleged ties with Russian oligarch Dmitry Ripolalev. I apologize in advance if I pronounced that name wrong. I tried looking up some pronunciations. And the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and in general questioning the company's funding. It was mainly tied to Bradley J. Fisher, and he's no longer employed there. It was wild to read nonetheless. This is something to keep in mind though, even if ties were cut off, since Russia's invasion on Ukraine is still a hot topic since it's ongoing. Paramount has screwed over movies in the past. A recent example would be the animated movie Under the Boardwalk. You're probably like, that's not a real movie, Sam. Yes, it is. I saw the trailer a day before it was released. I never watched it afterwards, but the marketing was also scuffed. Now, this may just only reflect Paramount's marketing team, but Paramount just seems to handle their money in an unfair way, in my opinion. Might be reaching here, but these are the rumored salaries for the actors in Sonic 3. I know part of it may depend on the actor themselves, like how RDJ had to be paid roughly $100 million to play a whitewashed Dr. Doom. Brother, get a Roman actor, it's not that hard. It's just foul work to me that Ben, Tika, Colleen, Kristen are being paid in scraps compared to the rest of the cast. Hey, why are the women being paid less?
Here to help.
Hasbro, from what I've seen, is also kind of shit right now. I don't have a parasocial relationship with them. I only heard about the current CEO being an ass. Someone who's more knowledgeable about Hasbro, fill us in. But this guy, John Warden, who has worked at Hasbro for a long time, was laid off, along with 100 employees, and can't cover medical bills for his fiancée. Could get into the whole underlying problem about medical bills costing a lot, economic benefits, the wealthy, etc., but I'm trying to keep a positive mindset among literally everything else going on in the world. My whole point is that I personally wouldn't put past Paramount, especially to purposely want this movie to fail in order to not do a sequel. At the very least, to not pay the workers for the work that was done on this movie. The state of movies and theater is just going through a rough point. Not to mention the AI that's now gonna plague some movies and some studios. It also doesn't help that CEOs will willingly ignore their own IPs for tax write-off purposes, looking at David Zaslav, by the way, with Wile E. Coyote vs. Acme. They're basically just banking on the general audience to stream their movies and not go out. Animation, especially stories with some originality, gets hit the hardest. Look at Luca or Turning Red. Some movies are just unlucky too. Transformers is a nostalgic IP, something that Paramount should be continuously pushing for, but for this movie, it just wasn't. It's easier said than done, but to combat this, we are going to have to attend movies physically more. From my standpoint, being in the US, the pandemic, we could have handled a lot better. I don't mind that we had to social distance ourselves at every location or stop going to locations altogether. And you should keep that in mind if you are going out and COVID is still a problem even if it's not as extreme anymore. The movie industry right now, especially with theatrical releases, is just taking a dive. The word-of-mouth promotion for this movie, I believe, greatly saved it from being a total box office flop. And I really like to hold out hope that the outcry on social media and the consistently good reviews this movie gets will show Paramount that we do want the full trilogy. Don't rely on the big executives to push for movies that you love. You have to push for that love and recognition yourself. If you aren't, or weren't, depending on when this video releases, able to see this movie in theaters, I implore you to check it out on digital. Tell your friends and family about this movie, especially ones that were thinking about getting it Transformers. It has some heavy-hitting themes that I think hit well with all audiences. Make posts and art or works online to show some love and support for this movie. And when a new film comes out, especially animated films, if it's in good conscience, please check them out in theaters. I say in good conscience because there are many factors that may prevent you from watching a product if there's negative association with it. Like, I'm not seeing the next Captain America movie because of the actress Shira Haas, because of her work as an IDF soldier. Or if you think the director/creator is a piece of shit or otherwise treats this movie like a piece of shit, i.e. Todd Phillips. That responsibility and what you choose to do falls on you, the viewer. And if this movie does get greenlit for a sequel, due to toys selling or the digital streaming service selling, or by some miracle the box office gets higher, then check it out in theaters. There's so much the trilogy I think would have to offer. And it would be nice for the workers that worked on this movie and potential new hires to execute their vision with a full-on trilogy. Thank you guys for watching and for making it to the end of the video. Here are my sources cited on screen. This is a quick little segment, but I wasn't expecting this to be my next video. Transformers 1 is on my brain and will stay there for a bit, and this issue and the branching problems is just something I felt for a while, and maybe you all have too. I also want to thank those who checked out my last video. I'm just flabbergasted how many people checked it out. I'm still shocked over it. Thank you so much. Anyway, I will see you all in my future projects. Thank you for watching.